You're tuned into Len Amsterdam.
To take a look at the opening exhibition of African-Canadian photographers called Traces of Identity. Come on in.
Individuals formed in the first 7 years of life, kind of thing that's been said, and I believe that very much. I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And as a result, I went back looking for things that I felt told my story, you know, and I thought I wanted to present my story in an unconventional way, you know, that I thought was, for me anyhow, because up until now I've been very much a documentary photographer, straightforward image. I wanted to experiment a little bit with the techniques that I had learned, and this I think presented itself with an opportunity to use objects from my past, from my childhood, and so on, and combine them with portraits of children. And the reason I used children is that, and I used different children. I used some are my own kids, and it's my own son, and some are children that I work with. There's an identification that I have with all of them, and I thought it was. I think each person has a time in their life that they have a strong identification with a time period. Like some people, adolescence as being kind of their marker years for whatever reason. For me, I think it was the pre-13 and under. I felt that you know, I was formed as an individual pretty much, and my adolescence was kind of a painful time, and I maybe put that aside a little bit. My fishies, I was being playful to some degree, okay, but I was also being very soft. I call it color-coded, and that title is very significant in that my feeling is that relationships are still very much politicized as far as who we choose for a partner in life, okay? And I think that we're getting to, you know, we've progressed so far as civilization in other realms, but as far as these basic social relations are concerned, who you choose as a mate, you know, is still very much scrutinized by the outside, and is, you know, people are judged by that. And also the O.J. Simpson trial, I thought brought a lot of that, and you know, the fact that race was brought so much to the forefront, and the fact that it was you know, O.J. was black, and his, you know, the partner that died was white, and that got a lot of play in the media and got more attention probably than it deserved, right? And so there's some of that. The Barbie dolls, again, playing off the fact that we have very sense about the ideal female beauty, and what it should be, and a lot of us as young males, the first nude that we see is going to be a Barbie doll, you know, our sister's Barbie doll, you know, and of course it's affecting the female in the same way that they take on certain perceptions. I also think it's very interesting that the black Barbie is given the exact same proportions as the white Barbie, which is kind of, you know, that's not reality, right? Not really reality, right? So I thought that was very interesting as well. But I was also being a little bit playful, a little naughty, in that I knew that this image would kind of like rub some people. My wife doesn't like it, okay? So I said, it gotta go on the show, right? Because, you know, so it's playing off some really basic elements in our society that I thought had to be addressed. This one is very, very autobiographical in that there's 3 generations represented in here. There's my biological father, myself, and my son is this large portrait here. And I thought that this was very important in taking stock of, you know, the evolution of my family, you know, and where it's come from. My father being West African, and the fact that I was born in North America, but conceived in Europe, and that's my German mother there. So there's a lot of layers there, and the ships, and this is a symbolic of the slave ships, and myself making the journey to North America. This, of course, is very symbolic of my schooling, and the fact that I'm schooled in Toronto, born and raised in Toronto, schooled here, and it's reflective of the idea of how children in general are evaluated, because they're seen as people to be evaluated as opposed to the other way around. You don't ask a kid what they think of their school, you know, that's what that's about. Again, these are kind of very much related. This is number 1 and number 2 in the series. This was the second one in the series, again relating very much to the school. And here we have a clash of cultures. My West African father, right, clashing with, you know, the schooling that very much reflect a Eurocentric approach to learning. And so we have a German composer, but still, it's very much a part of me, right? Because that's my history, my German history. My Catholic upbringing comes out on this one here. Okay, my first few years in school were in a separate school, and I'd say up until I was about 8 years old, I was very much immersed in the Catholic, the Catholic way of doing things. Let's say, I was baptized. I had my first communion, I think, that kind of thing. And but it's with me today, even though I'm not a practicing Catholic. You can't erase that. That's part of you, and it's the way you're going to deal. It's going to have an effect on the way you deal. This is less autobiographical and more social commentary. I don't know if you remember about 2 years ago, the writer Bumi Abu Jamal, he was about to came very close to being executed, right? And he got a last-minute reprieve. And this is more or less in his honor, you could say, but very much with him in mind, and the fact that through his journalism, through his writing, he's brought a lot of injustice, and he's paying the price for that. So, there are those among us that talk the talk, but he's an individual that walks the walk, and I thought that he deserved, and this is my, the pencil very much signifies his craft, which is journalism, and the fact that we can all be reborn through telling the truth, through telling the stories.
And do you have any other shows coming up or done recently?
Well, the Chatham show, this has been a big year for me. I showed some of this work a few years ago at Metro Library. I have another large body of work, which is around the Regent Park housing complex, and I've been documenting that for the last 8 years.